movie I didn't get to, but I know you did. 9 days. I wanted to get to it, just didn't have the time. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I just saw 9 Days, which is a film that played at Sundance 2020, the feature film directorial debut of Edson Oda. And it just came out 2 weeks ago. Sony Pictures releasing, got a wide release last weekend. And very, I think, simple premise, very simple movie to wrap your head on what it is. Our main character is Will, played by Winston Duke. And Will lives in this kind of purgatory land, which was shot in Utah. So it's like in the desert, a house in the desert. And Will, in this purgatory, he's like a middle manager. He interviews souls and asks them questions and has them do things over the course of 9 days. And when those 9 days are up, will decide which soul gets to move on to live an actual life.
Mm.
Go to life, go live. And they won't remember this whole 9 day process, but they'll still be themselves. That's kind of the crux of it. And he's got an assistant that helps him out in this process, played by Benedict Wong. And he kind of sits in his little house there, interviews his people. When he's not doing that, he's kind of watching the people he's granted to life in the past, and it's kind of like very specifically like all on CRT televisions. He's watching VHS tapes of their lives, of the people he's selected, and takes notes on what they're doing, and he's very invested in his decisions to that point. And we kind of watch one of these 9 day processes go, and you get some notable actors trying to, interviewing for their lives in a certain sense, played
Mhm.
by Bill Skarsgård and Tony Hale, and most notably by Zazie Beetz.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, the first 30-40 minutes of the movie very engaging when you like understand that presence and learning about it. And it's a lot of just talking in rooms, conversations, and people espousing their thoughts in that regard. So it's a lot of like thinking when you watch it, and obviously you can imagine very existential stuff. Literally, what is the meaning of life? How do I
Right.
want to live? All the things you can imagine would come up with this sort of thing. And literally Soul stuff. We just watched Pixar's
Right.
Soul. We just recently talked about A24's The Green Knight. Existentialism and purpose are common film themes
They're in
these
right now. I
days.
like it.
Yeah. However, 9 days gets quite dull, and
Oh, no.
I was not pleased with how the movie ends. It's a great premise, great idea for a film. And I actually saw some reviewers suggest that maybe it has amazing potential as a play, given that's really just a lot of talking,
Hmm.
stage play. But as a film, I really stopped being wrapped, and I thought it was a dull end, and
Ugh.
I kind of got a little frustrated with it. So I don't really want to spoil much. Not there's a whole lot to really spoil, but ultimately it just the conclusion execution of the conclusion I don't think matches the intriguing potential of the premise. So I would still recommend it if that type of movie is your thing, to have an opinion on it. And generally it's being well reviewed. They like it in a letterbox, but for me personally, I thought it ended up being a little dull. So
Hmm.
still so cool. Like even if it's a miss to me, it's it was a nice swing. So I'd
Yeah.
be interested to see what Otis' next movie is, because clearly he has ambition.
Yeah. I love the premise, the way you laid it out. It sounds super interesting. It's disappointing to hear that it fell a little bit short, or maybe didn't land totally. I was wondering about Oda's like just eye, because I'm looking at the background. If you're watching on YouTube, it's this like desert with like this like really bright yellow sky and like this like dull like whitish sand color with Zazie Beats and I'm guessing Winston Duke
Yep.
having a conversation, and it just looks amazing. And even the cover, which is my background on YouTube, it's just like the sky with like this little like uh, thing in the background, in the background, this little cottage or whatever.
Mhm.
And it feels like it looks like there's like a lot of like big sweeping shots in this. Is that kind of what he went for?
Honestly, there's not a whole lot of that. Like, despite being
Interesting.
shot in Utah, there's you don't get a lot of it till the end. It's really we're really in the house like the whole time, especially in the
Interesting.
beginning. Yeah. And because of that, you really have to have be
That's
carried
tight.
by the script. And like it's a
Yeah.
good showcase for the acting. I think the acting is good. Winston Duke is notably like I don't want to say neurotic, but notably like measured in his performance,
Hmm.
which to me wasn't like as cool to see when he's playing like Adobe Dad in Us or M'Baku physicality in Black Panther. Like this guy is like, all right, well, this Will dude, he's kind of a tough hang. It's like very like by the book in his process about these questions. And Zazie Beats is a good foil
Interesting.
to him because she's like very unwilling to like play the game
Hmm.
that he lays out for her in terms of the prospect of being selected. So yeah, visually though, it's like not like probably the most intriguing stuff is the way they kind of show you like all these CRT television stacked on top of each other, and you see all these moving video feeds and stuff. But yeah,
Interesting.
it's an intriguing swing for sure, but didn't work for me in the end.
With such a stacked cast too, I mean, young and upcoming actors, I think we like for the most part. It almost feels like, and I don't know what his character was like, but Skarsgård might have actually been better for the Winston Duke role a little bit.
It's a good point. Yeah, he's good at what he is, and he brings his qualities well. He was a good choice, and yeah, he
Hmm.
could have done it as well. Like you wouldn't have expected this from Winston Duke in terms of like I'm just picking an actor for this role. I wouldn't have picked him first. That's for sure. But yeah, they're all good. Like Tony Hale, also
Yeah.
good performance as having comedic element to it, uh, but it still fits the everything going on with the movie. So also a good selection. And Benedict Wong, he probably brings the best moments of levity to the film. He's just like getting Will to like lighten up even for a second. So yeah, yeah, 9 days. Check it out. It's in theaters now, or it'll be on streaming eventually. And definitely, definitely a movie I think worth having an opinion on, just because it again it's so existential, and for some people that it's really hitting, but not for me.